Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Donington Park, where we are ready to go racing in the Ginetta GT Academy for 2022. Cars heading out onto the circuit now for their second race of the weekend. We had a race yesterday afternoon, right towards the end of the day, which was won by Mark Warren, Thomas Holland second, and Leo Caravasili third place in what is turning into a hugely competitive season of racing, the second year of Ginetta GT Academy action. And yes, great to see the championship growing and growing with every round, it seems, and the grid doing exactly the same. So really looking forward to the race this morning here to start off the day on the Donington Park Grand Prix circuit. It's Mark Warren who led the championship coming into the weekend, and of course his race victory yesterday did his championship hopes the world of good. It's Leo Caravasili, though, you saw in the red number 90 car, who starts on pole with Mark Warren second place on the grid. This grid for race number 2 based upon second fastest lap times from qualifying yesterday. So a slight shake-up of the order at the head of the field. Thomas Holland and Ravi Ramid will start on row number 2. So it should be a very competitive grid. You can see a sizable grid this is of these Ginetta G56 GT Academy cars, which were introduced at the start of last season with much success, and yeah, that grid size growing and growing for this season, and providing us with some top quality racing, it must be said. Bright and sunny here at Donington Park. It's warm when the sun comes out, but there's a bit of a breeze, and there are quite a few clouds, some rather ominous looking overhead, so we're perhaps anticipating a little bit of weather affecting play as the day goes on, but that has not deterred the hardy British motorsport fans, many of whom have turned out for this very first race of the day here on this British GT weekend at Donington. And there are some great vantage points to be had around the Donington GP circuit, and some great racing as well, a really good circuit for racing, and I think we're about to see that demonstrated here in a moment or two. So cars released out onto their green flag lap. We should hopefully have 27 of them taking the start, and across 2 classes, but the cars all identical. So we have the GTA class and the rookie class simply for those drivers in their first year of racing in the championship. It's the GTA drivers predominantly in the front though, Leo Caravasili and Mark Warren, as I said, on row number 1 of the grid. Row 2 shared by Thomas Holland, and then actually the top rookie, Ravi Ramid, in the Want to Race car, starts 4th. Stuart Lynn and Danny Dwyer share the 3rd row of the grid, ahead of Nick White and Mackenzie Walker there on row, Tarley Jr. I should say, and Richard Sykes, who are together on row number 4. Then it's Mackenzie Walker with Nick White for company, rounding out the top 10 on the grid, followed by Ed Akers and Julian Wantling, the Century Motorsport driver, ahead of the Assetto Motorsport driver, 2 teams familiar to those who follow British GT. Row 7 then for Robin Grimwood and Martin Wills, 8th row of the grid. We will find Maurizio Sciglio and John Carney, another one of the rookie drivers. And then row number 9 for Mark Ellman and Joel Wren towards the back of the top 20. But this is still really well amongst the midfield runners. Mike West and Marco Anastasi are next. Assetto Motorsport and Data Motorsport sharing the 10th row. Then Mark Steele and Gary Wager, 2 pretty experienced Ginetta drivers. We're seeing there, by the way, Ed Akers making his way back up through the field. So as the last couple of rows of the grid cycle through on your screen, there's been a drama for Ed Akers on the green flag lap, and he is having to fight his way back through. As long as he didn't fall right to the back of the queue, he is able to go back up there and take his original grid position, but that is not an ideal start to Ed Akers' day. And this will be why, just at the top of shot, look, Ed Akers a little bit too excitable on the loud pedal coming through McLean's, loops it around, and luckily doesn't quite make contact with the barriers, but that's why Ed Akers was so far out of position. As I said though, as long as the last car in the queue, which is this one, Steve Williams, didn't go past him, then he's okay to take up his original grid position. If you fall right to the back of the line, though, then you must start from the back of the grid. So Ed Akers, the orange number 20 car, with a bit of a scare. That'll have woken him up this morning, and he'll be hoping not to repeat that in the race coming up now. It will be a race over 20 minutes. Yesterday, we got 12 laps in that 20 minutes of the full Donington Park Grand Prix circuit, so anticipating something around that distance again. And on the left of shot then is Leo Caravasili, the number 90 car, with the blue and yellow number 46 of Mark Warren, the championship leader, lining up alongside him. Nick White, by the way, is the man who is Mark Warren's nearest rival in the championship, but came into the weekend 15 points behind Mark. And of course, Mark beat him yesterday, and Nick White was only 7th, so that gap only growing. Certainly looks like it is Mark Warren's championship to lose, but can he get himself another race win here at Donington? We'll find out momentarily, because Steve Williams there at the back of the field was still trying to get himself into line, but he has now got onto that 27th starting position, appropriately enough for car number 27, and we're ready to go racing. Green flag at the back of the grid. 20 minutes of racing in the Ginetta GT Academy here on the Donington Park Grand Prix circuit gets underway now, and it's not a great start from the pole sitter. It's an even worse one though for Thomas Holland there. The number 74 car going nowhere, gets up to speed now. One car pulling into the pit lane. I think that might be Steve Williams at the back, but it's Mark Warren who will lead them down into Redgate Corner on the opening lap of the race, and there's contact. One car sideways in the middle of the pack. That's the 57 machine, and he's collected heavily. The number 57 car then going around. Nick White, that is, second in the championship. He was the one that was sideways, and another car, unfortunately unsighted, couldn't quite avoid him. That is a number of cars that will be out of the race. There is Nick White's car. There's more drama ahead, I think, or is that just tyre smoke? Yes, tyre smoke from one or two cars damaged in that Turn 1 incident, and that will have championship ramifications most certainly for Nick White, and we'll try and piece together who else, unfortunately, has had their races ended at Redgate Corner. There on the outside line was Leo Caravasli. Not a good start from pole position. In fact, both the first and third place starters got away really, really slowly. Thomas Holland especially. Number 7, Gary Wager, is in the pit lane, so that is the car that we saw basically pulling straight into the pit lane as soon as the lights went out. A dramatic start to the race, and the safety car is unsurprisingly being scrambled because we have debris for sure on the road at Redgate, maybe some fluid as well if radiators have been damaged. We'll have coolant on the road, and there may be a couple of cars that weren't able to limp their way into a place of safety. Indeed, Joel Wren's car is stationary at the side of the road. Right, let's try and piece this together. So you can see the first two cars on the inside go nowhere. That immediately stacks the field up, but it's Nick White who starts the race 10th on the grid, the number 57 car, who is going to get turned sideways as we approach Redgate Corner. So somewhere in the middle of the pack. Let's see where Nick is. I think he's on the outside, yes, and makes a dive to the inside. Look, to try and get up the inside of the slow-starting Caravasli, and then bang, he's collected pretty heavily by 1-2 cars. There's a real bunching effect then as others scatter to avoid him. But that was Nick White trying to go from the extreme outside line on the track right down to the inside, and unfortunately he wasn't clear of the car to his right. So, and then further contact there, the 47 car getting tagged sideways too. A very dramatic start to the race. Not necessarily for the right reasons. It's Mark Warren who leads the race then. Ravi Rammeed in second, so the rookie leader is up there in second place overall. Third position then, number 33, Stuart Lynn. Fourth is number 21, Richard Sykes. And then number 70, Mackenzie Walker, rounding out the top 5, having started 9th on the grid, which does sort of go to show how much shuffling there was. All of those top 5 drivers gaining ground on the first lap, but where there are winners, there must also be losers, and Leo Caravasli, one of them. He started on the pole. He ended lap 1 in 6th position. Danny Dwyer also lost a position, and Thomas Holland, of course, who was the really slow starter from 3rd on the grid, drops all the way down to 17th. So quite a few drivers out of position now, you would have to say, after slightly tardy starts. We lost Nick White, Robin Grimwood and Joel Wren at Turn 1, or in that area anyway. 1 or 2 of them limping on a bit further down the hill before pulling off, but none of them made it back to the pits. Gary Wager did make it into the pit lane, essentially before the race had really got underway. So, safety car then out. Hopefully won't be needed for too long, and we can hopefully get the race back underway, because the more safety car laps we have, the less racing laps we have, and it's only a 20-minute race. Lap times around the Donington GP circuit for these Ginetta G56s in the low 1-minute 40s, really. So that's under green flag conditions, of course, behind the safety car. Rather slower than that, so this will eat into the race time rather. Goes Caravasli through. Ed Akers still pointing the right way. That's good news. That is Robin Grimwood. Now, was it Robin who collected Nick White, I wonder? I think it may have been. There go the slow starters. Now, keep an eye. The red car of Leo Caravasli, who started on pole position, he is slow away, and you'll see two cars come up behind him, one to the right, one to the left. It's the car to the right, as we will see it, the sort of white and orange fronted car, which makes a sudden move from the right of our shot straight over to the left. Look at that, tries to get to the inside of Caravasili and gets tagged sideways by number 27, I think that was, wasn't it? Which got him, and then, yeah, others diving in. Robin Grimwood, I think, was the one who collected him when he was already sideways. Just there, that is Robin Grimwood. Joel Wren into the back of him, and the other one we'd lost was Nick White. Yes, so that is that accounts for the three which we lost there. Nick White getting tagged sideways, Robin Grimwood collecting him, and Joel Wren, unsighted, going into the back of him. So lucky, actually, for it to just be the three drivers taken out in that incident. It's often the scene of drama, Redgate Corner, on lap one, because everybody wants the inside line, but I've seen it time and time again where actually the outside line is the best place to be, because everyone tries to get to the apex. If you go around the outside, you can carry all the momentum down the hill and sometimes pick up places, but that clearly wasn't where Nick White wanted to be. Wanted the inside line, and that, unfortunately, is what caused the accident. That brought out the safety car, and now it's brought out a red flag. So this really isn't going well, is it? The first race of the day, and it's being stopped. Now, this, I imagine, is because they have, as I suspected, a little bit of fluid to pick up. I did speculate earlier on that maybe some radiators have been damaged, could be some coolant on the track. And yes, you can actually see it, can't you, there? That line, that dark line, which the marshal is putting the cement dust down on. And that's slippery, and we can't have the race starting with a slippery surface, so may as well stop the race. It was going to take too long to get it cleaned up, and by the time they had got the track back into a raceable condition, it would have we'd have used up the whole 20 minutes of racing. So we'll await news on what the grid will look like, because we have completed 2 laps, both of them behind the safety car, of course, but they count as racing laps, which means that we probably won't go back to the original grid. That's bad news for Leo Caravasili, who would have quite liked a second go at that, wouldn't he, from pole? Having set the fast time, he was a quarter of a second quicker than Mark Warren in qualifying, and would have fancied his chances, maybe, of going and challenging for the race victory. But unfortunately, having started on pole, as we just saw, that slow start, which sort of triggered what happened at turn 1, although I certainly wouldn't put the blame on Leo's shoulders. He was just trying to get up to speed after that poor start. And the bunching effect that happened behind was what really triggered the shunt. But for Leo, perhaps that was his best shot of a race win gone. Having started on pole, he might not get that chance to do so again. So the Lotus safety car brings the field around, and the safety car passenger there just waving at the drivers to tell them to slow down, because they are about to stop rather than go on to another lap. There you can see the cement dust going down again at Redgate Corner, and that is the 97 car of Joel Wren. So Wren started 18th on the grid. Who else did I say we lost? We lost Robin Grimwood, who started 13th, and Nick White, who started 10th. So they weren't really that close to each other on the grid, those 3 drivers, but just circumstances put them together, literally together, up at the top of the hill at Redgate Corner. So now the slightly complicated task of regridding the cars begins. If they are going back to original grid order, it will take quite a bit of shuffling this. If they're not, then it's as simple as lining the first car up on pole position, the second car on second, and so on. But yeah, that's I hope what they're going to do, otherwise this will take even longer. I don't think it will actually take a huge amount of time to clear the track at Redgate, so the quicker we can get everyone back onto the grid in the right order, the quicker we can get the race started. Opportunity, though, first of several today, I'm sure, to give a shout out to the marshals and all of the circuit staff who will work hard, I'm sure, to keep us on time throughout the day. There always are incidents to deal with at race meetings, and the Orange Army do a fabulous job of dealing with those incidents, not only as quickly as possible, that's often what we focus on, the speed at which they can get the track raceable again, but more to the point, making sure that the drivers are safe, that the drivers are looked after, and that they do it as efficiently as possible. So getting things cleaned up, making sure that they follow the correct protocols, and British Marshals are among the best in the world. We thank them, as always, for their service, their time that they give for free to come and help run these race meetings. So the you can see the extent actually of this spillage all the way down the Crater curve. So somebody, one of those cars, obviously tried to get back to the pit lane and then realised, I guess, they were leaking all of this coolant and they were probably doing more damage than good to their car. That's number 57, Nick White. Was it Nick, perhaps, who tried to limp on because he's on the track somewhere? Oh, that's at the chicane. That's at the Roberts chicane, which is the chicane on the national layout, which we're not using, but that means that he's limped his way almost the whole way around the lap. I do hope it wasn't Nick who was leaking fluid, because if it was, then this spillage is not going to be confined to Redgate Corner. I can't see anything on the track there directly behind the car, although they have, well, that's the telehandler coming to move his car out of the way, so fingers crossed that this trail of fluid and therefore cement dust that's being put down will not need to be stretched right the way around the entire nearly 2.5 miles of the Donington GP circuit. Now, as I was saying, Marshall's doing a great job. Ah, no, there you can see. So that's the line of coolant there. So it was, who was pulled off there? Was it Joel Wren? I think it was, wasn't it? Who had stopped just on that access road to the driver's right, our left. So Joel Wren's car appears to be the one which leaked the coolant. And again, that makes sense because he's the one that ran into the back of Robin Grimwood, who had already had contact with Nick White. So it was a frontal impact, relatively heavy frontal impact for Joel Wren, and that will have punctured the radiator for sure. So there you can see the Marshals. They've been handed a new grid sheet, which will tell them exactly what order the cars need to be lined up in. That comes from the timekeepers up in the race control tower down at that end of the pit lane, gets printed off, run downstairs to them, and then the Marshals will hand a couple of copies out to each other and get to work in getting the cars into the right position. There's an awful lot that goes into this, and the Marshals' jobs, certainly those located in and around the pit lane or the start line, are not confined simply to cleaning up bent and broken racing cars, but actually they have a fairly important role in keeping the race meeting going and making sure that they can deal with things like this, getting cars regridded or understanding the pit lane protocols if you're a pit lane marshal. It's a great way of getting up close and personal with motorsport. We always do say that, and the more time I spend around marshals, the more I realise just how much fun they have doing it. And you do start to understand why they're willing to give up their weekends to come and stand trackside. You get the best seat in the house, a cracking view, you get to see some really good racing, and you get to play an active part in allowing the race meetings to go ahead. So if you are interested in becoming a marshal, then perhaps inquire with the British Motorsport Marshals Club. Head over to the BMMC website. You can find plenty of information there on how you can become a marshal, get your marshal's training done so that you know what you're doing. You'll go out on post with experienced marshals, and you can perhaps take yourself from this position, sat trackside, eating a sandwich watching the racing, to being stood trackside and getting a front row seat for some really, really entertaining racing, which hopefully will be getting back underway very shortly. You can see they are gridding the cars up now. I think they're gridding them in the order they were running in as the safety car came out, so they've not gone back to the original grid order, and the timing screen has reset now to 10 minutes. It looks like it's a 10-minute race. A few more minutes before the race gets underway, though, so these lucky people who are just arriving at Donington Park now, they haven't missed a lot. Well, they missed a dramatic start to this Ginetta GT Academy race, but they can hopefully get themselves trackside in time for the restart, which looks like it will see Mark Warren, the championship leader, starting from pole. So the cars start to come into position at the back, and we are anticipating then a 10-minute restart. So it's Mark Warren on the pole, I can see, with Ravi Rammeed alongside. Third appears to be, I think that's 33, isn't it? Stuart Lynn, third. So that's your top three. So Stuart Lynn benefiting from that. In fact, all of them benefiting, of course, because originally, the original grid had Leo Caravasli on pole, so Leo's now going to start 6th. So that botched start really has hurt him because he obviously had prime position, and had the red flag come out a lap earlier, he would have been back on pole position. But the rule is, if you've done 2 laps, 2 racing laps, or 2 laps behind the safety car, whatever, if you've completed 2 laps of the race before the red flag comes out, then it's the original grid is scrapped, and you go back to the order you were running in at the time of the red flag. So if the red flag had come out halfway round that second lap, Caravasli would have been back on pole position, and he'd have been rubbing his hands with glee at an opportunity to start from the front again. There you can see still work being done. Now, whereabouts is this? That's down towards the bottom of the crater curves, potentially. Marshall sweeping away that coolant. And now, where is that, actually? That's not... That's oh, yeah, sorry, it's the top of the craters, isn't it? Yes, through Hollywood, that right-hand king. So really, you can see the scale of this. 10-minute restart then, I think I mentioned that. We have to shorten the race because we've a lot to get through today. It's a long and busy day with racing not set to finish here at Donington Park until getting on for 7 o'clock this evening. So we're already here quite late today. Don't need to be dragging things on any further. And the Ginetta GT Academy drivers do have another race today as well. They're back out at 5:15 later on in the afternoon. So they will get another opportunity to race for hopefully the full 20 minutes a bit later on. Right, this then is how we think they are going to be lining up. This was the order they were in at the time of the red flag. So Mark Warren and Ravi Ramneed will now have the front row together. Then it will be Stuart Lynn third on the grid with Richard Sykes alongside him. Mackenzie Walker and Leo Caravasli on row 3. Danny Dwyer and Ed Akers on row 4. Tom Hartley Jr. and Julian Wantling then should round out the top 10 ahead of John Carney, then Dubois, Martin Wills, Anastasi and Mark Steele. So that's, we reckon, how the grid will look. And then towards the back, of course, we've got only 23 cars now because we lost those 4 originally. Thomas Holland wants to watch, isn't he, number 74, because Thomas Holland originally started 3rd on the grid, but he had an even worse start than the pole sitter, and you can see how bad it was because it dropped him all the way down to 17th position by the time of the red flag. So good work there to get the new grid graphic together in short notice, but that we think is how they're going to be taking this 10-minute restarted race for the Ginetta GT Academy. As I said, Ginetta GT Academy in its 2nd season now was introduced last year as a sort of entry-level Ginetta series. Ginetta running so many championships these days in the UK, it seems that whatever your experience or age is, there is a Ginetta category for you. And the great thing about Ginetta GT Academy is that it's sort of aimed at all drivers of all ages and of all experiences. It's just, you know, if you want to come and race a fast car and be part of the Ginetta family, come along to the GT Academy if you've not tried Ginetta racing already. 5 race weekends, 4 of them supporting British GT, and they've also had 1 round, which I believe was at Brands Hatch, was it not, where they were alongside the British Touring Car Championship. So they're on big headline events, and they offer really good value for money as well. These 3.7 litre V6 engined Ginetta G56s, top speed of around 140 miles an hour, they reckon. So, you know, it's a proper piece of kit. And as you will always know with the Ginetta, they're going to be well built. You're going to be well looked after by Ginetta as well. And there are certainly worse things you could do if you're interested in getting into motor racing as a driver than approaching Ginetta about getting into one of these GT Academy cars. The champion gets free entry into the GT4 Super Cup, which would be the logical next step up from this, the GT4 Super Cup, which runs full-time on the British Touring Car package in a G56 GT4 car, worth an awful lot of money. That a full season entry into the GT4 Super Cup. Runner-up in the GTA class gets a half-price entry into a Ginetta Championship of their choice. So you've got the option then to go up to GT4 Super Cup, maybe make a sidestep across into the GT5 Challenge. And even if you finish 3rd in the championship, you get £1,500 of Ginetta parts credit. I think Nick White, who of course ironically is in contention to finish 3rd in the championship very much. He was 2nd in the points coming into the weekend. He might need that credit with the Ginetta parts group, because he's got his an awful lot of repair work to be done on that car even before race 3 later on. Right, more news for you on the restarted race. Unfortunately, it's not good news. only 6 minutes of racing anticipated now, but looking for some positives in the situation. I can't see any marshals on the track anymore at the top of the Crater curves, which I'm hoping means that they've got the spillage sorted and the debris cleared and the cars out of the way, which means that we can get a green flag lap started and then hopefully get to racing. But we'll need to go through that full start procedure again. And by the time they've done that, we're going to be really running out of time. So a shortened race, much shortened race, to get the Ginetta GT Academy action back underway. But as I said, they're back out again for a 20-minute race later on. Hopefully that means that they'll be able to get their full quota of racing laps in. Right, Marshall's clearing the track. I can hear the pit siren going off, which means that they are cycling through the 1 minute and 30-second boards. And they must have done that because the green flag waves and the green flag lap gets back underway then. So Mark Warren leads the field around. And up towards Redgate Corner he will go. So Warren already in a really commanding position as far as the championship is concerned. And this is how the grid will line up. So it is Mark Warren with Ravi Ramid alongside the GTA leader and the rookie leader sharing the front row of the grid. Stuart Lynn and Richard Sykes will share row number 2. With the third row then where we find Mackenzie Walker's Assetto Motorsport car and Leo Caravaschi. Let's see whether he can get off the line a bit better this time. Danny Dwyer and Ed Akers share row number 4, and then the top 10 are rounded out by Tom Hartley Jr. and Julian Wantling, Century and Assetto again sharing that row. John Carney is the second highest placed of the rookie drivers. He starts 11th alongside Sebastian Dubois, who I think made quite a few positions on that initial start. Martin Wills and Marco Anastasi are next. That's row 7 of the grid, and row 8 for Mark Steele and Thomas Shelley. 9th row of the grid for Thomas Holland, another to watch out for, that number 74 car with Maurizio Sciglio alongside him in 18th. Mark Elman and Sean Fleming round out the top 20 on the grid. And then row number 11 is where we find Dan Rathbone and Steve Williams. And the last car on the grid should be Mike West, because we lost those 4 initially. Gary Wager out, along with, remember he pulled over before the race even really started. We also lost number 57, Nick White, 97, Joel Wren, and 50, Robin Grimwood at turn 1. So, chance to get some heat back into the tyres. There is Ravi Ramid, who is the rookie class leader and the rookie class championship leader as well. Seems strange to call Ravi a rookie because he's been racing an awful lot recently. He's not only racing in the Ginetta GT Academy, but also doing the Fun Cup Endurance Championship, and has been getting better and better. In fact, I seem to recall he got a podium finish recently, which I think was his first in that championship. So Ravi is getting quicker, and always nice to see drivers willing to race in more than one championship at a time, and able to race in more than one championship at a time, because the more cars we can get on any grid out there, the better. We've got plenty of them here on the Ginetta GT Academy grid. Even though we've lost a few, still 23 of them then set to take the start of the race. So, slightly odd there, the position in which second place car has lined up Ravi Ramid. He's a lot further towards the middle of the track than he probably should be. So, not entirely sure. It can be difficult. There are lots of different grid markings down there on the start-finish straight, so he's possibly spotted the wrong one, but hopefully he doesn't get in trouble for being out of position. I don't think he'll gain an advantage from being there. We'll find out now, shall we? Because 6 minutes of racing in this restarted second race of the weekend for the Ginetta GT Academy gets underway. Oh, and Ramid stalls from the outside of row 1. There's another staller further back. Ramid gets away, and Akers nearly gets him, and there's contact further back. Cars on the grass. It's another messy start, and we haven't even got to Redgate Corner this time. Those 2 cars, though, I think are actually going to continue with limited damage, so hopefully we can escape the dreaded safety car on this occasion. Out of Redgate they go. Most of the drivers trying to stay as far away from that line of cement dust as possible as they drop down into the old hairpin, where it is Mark Warren who leads the way. That's Caravaschi up the inside. That was a bold move. He gets past the number 70 car, Mackenzie Walker, though, and into 4th place. So 2 places gained already then for Caravaschi, and we know that that number 90 car has good pace, because because he was originally due to start on pole position. Screech of tyres as they head up the hill. Hopefully everyone's still pointing in the right direction. Yes, I think they are. Maybe one car on the grass further back, but up through McLean's. Oh no, there we go. One car is pointing the wrong way, and it's Tom Hartley Jr., number 77. That's an odd place to go off. You'd imagine he must have had some assistance to go off there on the run out of Starkeys, and a car in the gravel at Redgate. Now that looks like one of the cars which was involved in the contact down the start straight, so perhaps some steering damage sent that one into the gravel. We'll try and piece that together, and around goes Leo Caravasili. Oh, what a shame. One of the drivers we were really looking forward to seeing fight his way back after that poor initial start. He'd already gone from 6th to 4th, and he's looped it coming out of the Fogarty S's. Did he carry on? I think I heard the skittering of gravel. Yes, he's in the barriers, and Leo Caravasili's race, I'm afraid, comes to an end. Bit of a hip and shoulder there out of the Melbourne hairpin. It's all going on here, isn't it? We've had limited racing, unfortunately, out of the Ginetta GT Academy today, but every bit of it we've seen has been eventful, that's for sure. 76 up the inside line there at the Goddard's hairpin and gains a place. There is the car being moved at Redgate. Now, who is that? That is 25, isn't it? 25, that's Carney. So John Carney off at the first corner. That, I think, is Leo, isn't it? At the chicane. There are Ginetta drivers dotted all around the Donington Park circuit right now, looking at damaged and stricken racing cars. But the race continues. No need for a safety car. That's good news. Mark Warren leads the way. Second place then is Sykes. Now, Richard Sykes originally, at the original start of the race, started 8th on the grid, and he's up into second place now with Lynn 3rd, Walker 4th, Ed Akers 5th, and Danny Dwyer in 6th position. And the red flag's back out again. And that will be it now. They're not going to bother restarting this over 3 minutes or less, I would imagine. So that's a shame, but not a huge surprise. We've got Tom Hartley off here. We've got the 25 car of John Carney off at the first corner. And then we've got Leo Caravasili off at the chicane. And we may even have others. I mean, there were quite a few didn't come through. Caravasili, in fact, no, they're the only 3 we lost there. Caravasili at the chicane, Tom Hartley Jr. at Starkeys, and John Carney at Redgate Corner. Carney was one of the drivers who was involved in side-to-side contact as the race started, and I saw actually out of the window that he did get back on track, but I then took my eyes off him as he went to Redgate Corner, and I imagined the car wouldn't turn right when he got to Redgate. I think it was the left front corner that took the whack, so off into the gravel he went. So we'll try and piece this all together. So you can see there that Rammeed from the outside of row 1 goes nowhere initially. Ed Akers goes to the outside of him, and as the others try to go to his the driver's right, our left, there's just a bit of a hip check, and that sends the black and yellow car off. That is John Carney. He rejoins at the back, but the car immediately almost seems to start wandering over in towards the gravel trap, and there you can see he does not come out the other side. This is Hartley, who, did he get punted there through Starkeys? I think there was contact, a full 360, and then loops it again. Other cars on the grass to avoid him. That was fortunate not to be bigger. Then, of course, further round the lap, we lost Caravasili, just lost the rear over the curbs at the chicane, and that is where he ended up with a rather damaged car and also a rather damaged barrier. You can see that he's moved the recticel barriers, which are in front of the tyre wall there at the chicane. And that's going to take a few more minutes to sort. So our next race is perhaps going to be, or our next session, I should say, might be slightly delayed here at Donington Park. Well, the drivers coming in, getting a round of applause from the teams. They certainly gave us plenty to talk about, I will give them that. That was a fairly dramatic, if at times messy, second race of the weekend for the Ginetta GT Academy. And with 3 more cars off the road, our second red flag means that the race will end early. Now, at no point across either of the attempts to run that race did we get 3 laps in, so I'd imagine scoring points is going to be limited. There is every possibility that no or maybe half points will be awarded. We'll try and get you some more news on that when we're back racing later on, by which time I'm sure the drivers will have had a talking to by the clerk of the course. But 5:15 is when the Ginetta GT Academy are back out, and hopefully we will get the full 20 minutes of racing action in without the need for a couple of red flags. Spectators continuing to pour into Donington Park, a busy day of racing ahead and a dramatic start to it courtesy of the Ginetta GT GT Academy drivers, who, as I said, will have their third race of the weekend later on. It's a win provisionally for Mark Warren. We'll wait and see whether he gets to score any points for that and whether he can do the triple later on this afternoon. Join us then.
Assuming that was a race, we'll wait and see. In which case, the results, if they are